Hi guys, this is Zai from Zai by Design and CG Boss with our new set, Vampire Crypts, Props, and Poses. And there's two different sets here, so I thought I'd give you a quick overview of the Crypt set and then the matching pose set so you can see what's in it. And there's a couple of little tweaks of how to use it, so we wanted to make sure everything was clear for you guys when you get ready to go. So this first set that I'm showing you is the Crypt set itself. And of course it's a great big crypt, fully instanced so that it has everything set up for you so you don't have to load all this stuff together. There's a full crypt load, and it entails basically room for, you know, multiple vampires, skulls, candles. It gives you all the lighting. There's several different ways of doing stuff. One of the neat things we added in here is the ability to, you always see vampires hanging by their feet, but you never really see their feet in any of the images. So we created for you guys, you can just see it here, a hanging roost, so you can hang your vampires upside down as well. So, and there's a whole bunch of individual props that come with it, so you can set them however you like, but the full crypt set is actually instanced for a lot of speed for you guys. So it's not a heavy load. And here's a bunch of cameras. It includes 18 cameras. They're not all shown here, but there's tons and tons of different ways you can see these cameras. And of course you can adjust them to your taste. Here's a bunch more cameras. We tried to give you a whole bunch of kind of cinematic effects for you to choose from. Plus the pose pack includes go-to poses so that it's faster and easier for you guys to use. So giving an overview here, this is the layout that we've given you. It is made up of these 4 pieces, plus of course the coffins and the skulls and the extra pieces, but the main set is made up of these 4 pieces, and they kind of snap together. So we've made an entire entrance hall and main crypt for you guys, and this is looking at it top down. You can see it's got 5 coffins in the center here, and you can see these got 2 extra coffins on the side, 1 over here in the entrance, and we've got go-to poses in the pose pack that kind of shoot you around the instance so you don't have to struggle to get your stuff there. Also, there's 2 sections up here in the sky that are your instance control area, and it's kind of a copy of all of the stuff that makes this up. So you do not ever want to delete this. This is covered. There's actually a ceiling on it. And so all the lighting inside comes from just the candles alone. But these 2 places up here, you never want to delete anything, or it will delete what's up here out of the entire instance. You don't see anything in here while you're inside, so they're fine to stay there. You're never really going to see them while you're inside the instance. Next up, these are the props that come with it. There's 3 types of candelabras. This is the roost we talked about, so they can hang upside down. You can place that anywhere. We've got 5 placed for you, I believe. Here's a handheld candelabra, matching skulls, a stake, and a hammer for the fun stuff. A couple of different kinds of candles, and of course the altar and the coffin and a spare bench just to round things out. The pillow actually goes inside the coffin. There are 2 types of coffin on this. You actually can have it as stone or wood. There's 2 settings there for you, and there's also a red or a black interior for that. So let me come to that. There's your wireframe, and this shows the interior of the coffin. So there's your red and black and your stone and your wood. There's a couple of poses here that actually let you, if you just happen to be using just the coffin and maybe you're not using the instance, say you load the altar and then you need to load the coffin and you need to match it up, you use this one that says, you know, add it immediately to the coffin. There's a way to tilt it up against the wall. If you don't have the pillow loaded, there's a way to load the pillow separately or add it to the coffin as long as you've got the coffin selected. So that makes it really easy for you to kind of use these utility poses for it. This is just a little more detail on the coffin so you can see the stone versus the wood. That's the interior with the red. Then you have, I know everything up front we said was all instance. We did go and save all of the skulls from the niche walls, which you'll see. The line of skulls that go across the bottom of the altar, and this circle set of skulls that go around the bottom of the pillars, those are also all saved as independent groupings for you to use however you choose. There is also included the hammer and the stake, so you can do the great hammer and stake poses with the vampires. And this is just a list of everything. So you can kind of see we've got the full crypt scene, which you can open as is or you can merge. You've got all of your basic render settings, which is kind of and overall settings for the candles and the lighting and stuff like that. Then you have all of these cameras that you have. You can turn fog on and off. We've picked some matching colors for you, red, yellow, or white, and you can turn the fog on and off. So that's all set up just for your kind of setting the scene parts, and you can use it as is. Then if you need any of the other pieces, they're all saved out individually for you. The one thing to note is that if you change a color of, like these candles, they come in red and white, if you change that color on one of the things that load in that big merged scene, it is going to change them all throughout the scene. If you need to use a mixture of red and white, you're going to want to load these individual ones, because it's instance, if you change one color on a candle, it's going to change them all. So those are the only really things that you need to know, is that it's instanced. It'll do an overall change if you change anything on any certain one. If you want individual colors, just load an extra one and change the color on that one. So that's pretty much the overview of the Crypt itself. We tried to make it as simple as possible to use, and then we did this matching set of poses. So let's go through that really quickly. It's a bunch of group poses. There's individual poses: opening the coffin, sitting on the coffin, perching on the coffin. We did a bunch of couples poses, so you can have the two people laying together. The coffin is big enough to made sure of that, so that you can have these kind of romantic poses where you've got both vampires as a couple in the coffin. So you can see there's just lots of poses. I'll go through them real quickly here. There's lots of poses, from upside down to crouching to together poses, on top poses, laying in, opening the coffin, sitting on top. So there's a ton of stuff in here depending on how you want to set up your scene. Included with that is a whole bunch, like I said, of go-to poses that help you navigate around the scene. So all you really need to do is build your character in the center, and then when you're ready, you can merge the full crypt into it if you choose, and then use some go-to poses, and it won't take you very long to put it together. Same thing here. This just kind of shows you, once you're done, choose your pose, choose your camera, and then hit your go-to, and you're kind of ready to go. So with that said, let's go take a look at the actual stuff, and I'll show you how to use the go-to poses. There's a little bit of a tweak on that, on how to use them, and I don't want anybody to get confused. And I just want to show you how the cameras work as well. Okay, so we're in Daz now, and let's say we've created our character, we dressed them up, they're kind of ready to go. They're not posed, but at least they're dressed and ready to go. Okay, so now that we're all set, let's go to my library, and normal library, environments, and we should see it under Vampire Crypt. Let's make sure that it's in there. CG Boss, Vampire's Crypt, there we go. Now, when you look at this and you open the iRay folder, there's your basic load, like we talked about, in the fog. And then we want to open up this iRay, and we'll have your camera and your individual props. The main construction pieces are in the first folder, and then there's individual folders to group things together for you all the way through. And then you also have the hand poses if you're wanting to put a basic load for these hand poses, not the ones that come with the pose set. That's a little more involved, but a basic hand load is in there for you as well. And then, of course, all your individual props like we talked about. So if you want to use just, say, the altar, and you're not using the entire scene, you can come in here and go to the props and look for the coffins and altars, load your altar, and we've got our guy set to 0, 0, so it's going to load right on top of him. Anytime you want to use one of these poses, everything's based off of 0, 0. So you load this altar piece, it comes in at 0, 0, and then say you want to add a coffin to it. This is the coffin by itself, but you want to add it perfectly to the top of this altar. So just select it and then double click Add Coffin to Altar, and it will throw that right on top of there perfectly. And say you want to open the coffin before you put him in it. If you click the lid, you'll see there's a dial to open and close, perfect for you. So maybe you want to open it up and you can adjust it later. And then you would go ahead and proceed to put him into a pose depending on how you wanted him to fit around this coffin. So let's go find a pose real quickly and throw him into the coffin. We'll just turn. Now I'm not using a camera or anything. This is just a perspective view. We'll just turn him this way a little bit. And we'll go down and find our poses, which are under People and Genesis 8. And it's in Genesis 8 because it's got both male and female poses in there. And let's find poses here. And we should see, let me refresh this, Vampire's Crypt poses. And then we have, this is just a guy, so let's just do male poses. And let's say we want to have him basically sitting up in the coffin. So we've got him selected, just double click him and double click that. And he's gonna fit into that in a second here, perfectly ready to go. Now, obviously his arm isn't set yet, so you might want to turn the other way, and you can just bring that coffin up to meet his hand. And just be careful, like this guy's got, and I'll zoom in on it, on his hand, this guy's got nails. So you might want to just be careful as you bring this back, just to make sure it doesn't quite hit his nails, or if you need to, adjust the fingers just a little bit to fit. But that's basically how easy it is. You add your coffin, or add your altar, add your coffin, click your pose together, and just bring the lid right where you need it to go. So that's the easy part. Now let's say we didn't want him, the same thing with the girl. Hers would work exactly the same way. Say you have a setup where you're using two people in the coffin here, and you want to use a couples pose. So the couples poses are in a different folder. They're here. Let's get him set, and we'll turn this lid out of the way here. And let's get him in position. So we're just going to double click him again. And you might want to decide, these are standing and walking, but let's do them inside of the coffin. So we're just going to choose one for him, and you can see when you roll over here that the color person is the live pose and the gray person is the not live pose. So this one is obviously for Genesis 8 female. So let's get the male one, which is the same icon. We'll get him set, and he will go into position. So he's in. And then the girl, because these are based off of 0, 0, if you're not using a go-to, you're gonna make, I moved her over, so let's move her back into 0, 0, so she'll go into perfect position there. I had moved her over to get her out of the way. So she's now at 0, 0, and we can choose the other pose, and there they go. Now, you'll see her dress went flying everywhere. I, for the promo, actually simmed her dress, and that's something you'll have to do on your own, but she is in there. You might want to put her in there alone and set up your sim first if you're going to use a dress like that. But yeah, it'll come out just like that promo that you saw over here. And I'll bring this back for you. Let's see, that'll be this promo here, which is it's basically that one. But we had a nice one with the dress in it. So that's kind of the same one where I've simmed her dress and it fits right in there. There's enough room for two people. We made the coffin a little wider, and it actually will fit two people with that pose setup. So that's how you use that particular piece, just for basic general stuff. Now, let's get to something a little more complicated, and that is using it with the full setup. So let's undo this and put them back where they belong. And so she's standing up, and then let's put him back to his normal body pose, and they're both at 0, 0. And we'll get rid of this coffin, and we'll get rid of this one. And this time we're going to load a camera and the full setup. So we will change back up here to the props, go to the Vampire's Crypt and iRay, and we're going to load the entire crypt. Now, you could load this, if you double click this now, it's going to load an entirely new scene, which if you've already got your camera or your people ready, that's not what you want to do. You want to merge it. So you can right click, or you can do merge, or you can do right click and merge into scene. Now that's going to load the entire crypt around them, and it'll take a second to load it. It'll load this entire thing around them, and they will be perfectly in the middle. And where they're going to end up is, let me show you on this setup here, is that's not the one we want. We want the other one, this one. They will end up on that map that I showed you. They're going to end up right here. This is altar 3, coffin 3. It's right in the center. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they also show you that with the poses. If you ever have to reference back to it, it kind of shows you where everything is on that one. Get that one out of the way and get this one with the poses. There is a little bit of a map that kind of shows you where all these pieces are. So you've got altar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the corners 1, 2, 3, 4, the roosts where those hanging chain type of bars are, or where they say roosts. And then you've got coffin 6 and 7, that double coffin, and you've also got the, a couple of poses that work with the entrance. So our go-to poses that we've got over here, we're going to basically be saying, okay, let's pick a camera, let's pick a pose, and we'll kind of click them together. So that's what we're going to do now. So it's loaded the entire scene. They're standing in the middle of number 3, and we need to decide, do we want to use this particular scene right here with one of the cameras, or do we want to push them somewhere else? So why don't we take him and shoot him over to another position. So let's say we want to use him hanging upside down in the entrance. So that's easy enough to do. All we need to do is basically come over here and look at, pick a camera. We've basically got camera 1 is the entrance. So we're going to choose to do that. And there is a roost hanging up here. It's kind of hard to see, but it is hanging up there, or actually right here. And then there's a coffin in the back. So we're going to choose to have him hanging from this roost right here. So all we need to do to get him over there is go back to our scene. We've chosen our camera from the list, camera 1. And we're going to go down to the poses. And we're going to go to camera go-tos. So basically we're going to try to push him over there first. And let's see, he is on our list. We've got lots of stuff on the list now that the Crypt is open, but you can close all that up. And it also puts all the cameras in there. So now you've got Jack, that's the one I was using. So we choose him, and we choose down here at the bottom, we want to hang him on the roost, which will be camera 1 and roost 5, going by that little map. So we just double click that. It's going to bring him over here. And there he is, standing way back there underneath the roost. And if we want to zoom in, we can. We can just come over here and choose the camera real quick. And we're on camera 1, so we'll choose camera 1. Although it says interest, it's also for the roost. And I'll show you that in a minute. Some of the cameras it's the same camera. It's used for 2 different pose types, and we're going to go over that in a second. So if we want to come closer to this camera, we can come over here and adjust how close with the focal length if you want to be farther in, and just kind of move it and tilt it a little bit. If you want to start with that camera and just move in if you really want to be close up on that kind of roost there and kind of straighten it out a little bit if that's what you want. And well, just so you can see it a little closer, we'll come right in there. Okay, so say you used your go-to, right? We got him over here, and now you want to put him hanging upside down. And all you need to do is go back to your poses, which is, where did we leave those? Okay, and we want the male poses again instead of a go-to, and we can pick either one of these hanging upside down ones, and let's just grab this one here. And he should jump right up on there. There he is. So now he's ready to go. And the other thing you can do is, say you want to turn this or move this at all. Maybe you don't want it straight on. Maybe you want it turned a little bit. What I would suggest you do is we can close this up, and we can find, if you click on this one, you'll see it'll find it for you. There's a lot of stuff, but if you click on it, it'll open it up, and you see this is Roost Instance 5. You can take Jack and parent him directly to Roost 5, and now he's part of that. And if you choose Roost 5, you can come over here and say you don't want him straight on, you can turn him a little bit. And you can say, why rotate, and just turn him. If you want him hanging a little bit differently rather than straight on, you can turn him however you want. So from there, another thing we can do is, if you want to, and say we have him in a different pose, let's try him in a different pose real quickly. Let's say we've got him standing up. There's a standing pose in the couples one where he's actually standing right in the coffin. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's try him again. Now he's still parented. If you parent something like that, you probably want to unparent him first before you go ahead and choose another pose, because your things won't be relative. So let's just unparent him. And he's still there, but he's not parented to that roost anymore. So we're going to come back over here and ask him to stand in the coffin. Now he's going to stand. Okay, and you can see he's tilted back a little bit, but he's not in that coffin yet. So what we want to do is, still holding on to him, is decide we want him to go to that coffin location. So we just pick go-tos. We know that from the map that is entrance 1, but he's in the coffin. So you want to look for the one that says coffin on it. So that is altar 1, altar 2. We want to have, there we go, Coffin 6, 7, and 8. This is number 8. So just double click 8 and it's going to shoot him back there. And now he's inside the coffin, but we can't see him. So let's take that, click the door, open and close, and there he is. So if we zoom all the way in, there he is, perfectly in the coffin. Now sometimes when you hit a go to and you have not put a pose on him yet, they may end up kind of stuck into the wall a little bit. That's okay. All you have to do is apply the pose and it'll jump him into position. The go to just basically puts it in a 0-0 position with regard to whatever coffin you're putting him into. So it zeroes him up, and then when you apply the pose, he fits directly into the coffin. So that's the easy way to do it, is basically pick your pose, set him into the pose, choose your go-to, and they'll go into the spot. Or if you choose your go-to first, no, they might be a little bit out of alignment. That's okay. Just double-click the pose, and it will sort itself out. So what you're looking at here with all of these go-tos is some poses work, or some go-tos work with multiple cameras. So you've got the camera 1 entrance here. That actually stands him farther along the corridor here. Let's back out. Okay, so here we are going to change it a little bit and show you where he ends up with the multiple cameras for camera 1. One is obviously looking down the passageway there. Now, if you've zoomed in and out on your camera and you want to reset it, it's kind of easy to do. The main Crypt loads with all the cameras loaded over here, but you can add another one if you need to reset it. You can go back up here to the cameras. Where did it go? Cameras. And say you need camera 1 reset. Just add another one. And you can see in the scene, it's added it down here and it's got a 2 next to it. And then it'll be on your list for 2, and we can go back to the original without having zoomed in. So let's say this was camera 1. Let's see, where was it on the go-tos? This was camera 1, roost 5, and it was, you were back here where he landed. Let's double click him back there if we can get him. He's so far back. Okay, so we've got Jack. And let's try a different pose where we'd like him to end up here, where the basic go-to for camera 1 is. Not the roost, but up here. So we're just going to say go to camera 1, entrance 1. He's going to end up here. Now he's still in the tilted pose from being in the coffin, but we can change that pose real easily if we go back to the poses and male poses and just have him standing there. Let's say maybe he's not the vampire, maybe he's actually staking somebody. So let's just double click him into that, and he should, oh, he went back to the center. So let's try a go-to again on that and bring him back. Where did our go-tos go? And go to camera 1, come back. There he goes. Okay, so now he's over here and he's getting ready to jump and attack somebody. It's kind of hard to see because it's kind of dark in here. Or, if you want him just standing there, you could use half of the couples pose where he's just standing there. So let's do that one, and maybe he's just standing there doing his thing. So, and the other thing I was going to show you was a couple of these poses actually load. You'll see from that staking one, it loaded the two stake and hammer into his hands. That will actually load that right there, and I'll show you that in just a second. If we go back to perspective view, back in the middle, and we will get her set up. What you want to do is, again, open this coffin lid with the little thing here. Let's say she's inside the coffin, so we'll double click her, and we'll say she's inside the coffin. So let's find one where she is in the female poses, and let's say she's laying in there in this pose here, and we'll double click her. She's already 0-0, so she'll go right into that center coffin perfectly. And then let's just tilt our camera so we can see her. Okay, so she's, oops, that's the roof. That is her laying in the coffin. Now, let's go back and grab him and bring him back over. And let's say we want him to be in the go-tos. This is altar 3, so we're going to come back to altar 3. And that might be camera 14 we might be using because it comes back to altar 3. And we'll bring him back over here. There he is. He's shown up in the middle. And let's try and use the camera we want to use, which is 14. Okay, so we see him from this direction, and maybe we want to change that, but at least it got us there, and we'll zoom in a little bit. Now we want to use him in that staking pose, so let's go find that. We'll go to the male poses, and we want him up on the side here. He's actually staking her. So we've got him, and let's set that up. And what that will do is it will put him up on the side of the coffin like that, and we'll turn him around, and you can see that he's got the hammer and the stake loaded, and he's actually staking her. So those two poses, this standing staking one and this one where he's staking someone in the coffin, both of those will actually load the hammer and stake for you in position, ready to go. So the one thing you want to watch out for is if you're using different shaped bodies, smaller or larger, these are for G8, so if you're using different shaped characters, you might want to zoom in and make sure you might make a couple of fine adjustments for clothing or whatever, because they'll be a little bit sized a little bit differently, but that shouldn't be too hard to adjust if need be. They'll work perfectly on G8 for you. So there you go. That's how you use it. If you need any help, feel free to open a ticket or find us in the forums, and we'd be glad to help you out.